Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite. Deixa eu ajeitar o volume aqui que tá baixo. Aí, tô te ouvindo melhor. Vou até pedir uma garrafinha bonita pra beber água hoje. Aí depois você compartilha a sua tela. Depois compartilha a tela. Deixa eu lembrar aqui o que eu fiz, que eu não lembro. Tem que explicar? Aí lascou. Tudo bom. E você? Aí, estou vendo a sua tela. Não tô vendo sua câmera, mas tô vendo a tela. Ah, vai aparecer só no vídeo lá. Ué, a última vez aparecia a sua câmera. Você tá usando no. Aparecia, viu você? Tô nada. Até falei pra você dar tchauzinho, tava vendo você dando tchau? Não. Não dá, eu vi o YouTube pra ver o delay aquela hora. Mas não tem problema. Se no YouTube estiver aparecendo, tá tudo certo. E YouTube.
Sim. Olha aí ele aí. Ajustar sua cabeçona. Bom, difícil ajustar certinho a cabeção. Noise. Okay. Welcome to another streaming episode of Rushing Python with my brother. Are you ready, Igor?
Nice. Of course not. Okay.
You're more than ready. So last episode, we learned all the basics of Python. We learned how to install Python. We learned how to install VS Code, how to install Jupyter. We learned the for loop, the while loop, the conditional. We learned about what else? Functions, functions. Keyword arguments for functions. Pretty much all of the basic of Python. Reading files, writing to files, all of the basic is there. And so last thing we discussed was, hey, do some exercises. And now let's check the exercises that you did. Can you send me the link again in the chat? I don't have
Yep.
to go search for it.
Just a moment.
Uh-huh. Actually, in the WhatsApp, maybe it's better. So it doesn't break Discord. Actually, there are two Discords here.
I don't.
Either one works.
Okay, it's on the WhatsApp.
Okay, thank you. Nice. Okay, so exercises. I gave you 4 exercises. I only see 3. Looks like you forgot to upload one of them.
Oh yeah.
So upload the last one while I tweet that we're going to do this.
Well, refresh now. Let's see is there. Let's see if it's there.
It's
Oh,
there
yeah.
now, so we can actually check the exercises. Okay, so this first, where's your face?
My face is
Do I have
appearing.
to? Okay, I have to show the Discord all the time.
Nice.
Let me see if I have to change. No, I'm gonna leave you right where you were. That's it. Okay, so first things first, can you explain to us what you did here?
Yeah.
Oh, explain.
But
By the way, let me rotate you so you can look. Nice. Now you're looking to the screen, the code.
Okay.
Go.
Well, I put the trigon to receive the. What's the name of that star? In name. Asterisk. Okay. Then I put that in a loop of 4, where I receive the number in the function make triangle, and then I loop and go right in the triangle. Is that understandable?
Yeah, so two things here. Why? Okay, so this if here should probably, so let's copy this actually. Let's always copy things and make sure that they are working. I could clone it, but I don't think I will. I think I will just paste in here. So before I actually start, one quick trick. Do you see here that I just put this comment, hashtag %%? It became a cell. Yeah. So this is a VS Code thing, but it also works on some other places. If you do this and install, I don't remember which extension, but it should be one of the ones that we have. This should be able to work as a cell. So if you shift enter here, it runs only this cell. So it's a kind of a trick. So you can see here that the code works, which is good. So some things to change. So here you're saying if n equals 0, print the triangle, but you start with n equals 0. So you could instead do this and start with 1. And this should be the same thing. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the only thing that I would change. But also the number is not correct, apparently. Yeah, because this is Python X minus 1 is already the number that you're going to use. So when you use a range in Python, you are essentially doing the iterating over the numbers from 1 to X minus 1. So the range already goes only one below
when
the end
when
point.
you change the if, with the if it's go right, but when you change it to print first before the for, then we have to
You
take
see,
that away, this -1.
why is this the
That's
case? Oh, sorry. N equals 0. Oh, because you're not, no, that's right. You're not quitting when you do that. So that's fine. The triangle is correct. The if should be outside, but you're not returning or continue. So yeah, you still need to restart at n equals 0. That's correct. Yeah, that's fine. It looks kind of ugly because of this x minus 1, but that's fine. Oh, I hate when I click this button. One other thing, this n is not being used anymore. So when you don't want to use a variable, you can use the underline. And it's like the underline is just an indication to say this variable is not going to be used anywhere. So just doesn't matter which value it takes. And I would change this just because it's annoying to range 1 to x. Just what did I do? Oh yeah, that's it. If you select things and shift enter, it only sends a single part, so it doesn't. You have to remember not to select things when you shift enter. So I would change it to range 1x to avoid x minus 1, but that's like not an error, so it's fine, and it's a preference thing. But the n equals 0 to the conditional on the first element should be outside to make things a little bit cleaner. Yeah, that's good. One alternative here. So I think Python doesn't have this thing. Let me check. Yeah, Python doesn't have this. Sorry, plus. No, Python has this. So one thing that you can do is use this operator.
Oh yeah.
So we haven't talked about this before, but it's probably common from the other languages. This operator is the same as plus equal plus. Well, I actually don't have to explain this, but yeah. Otherwise, great code. One last thing that I want to check is the help. So this is just a text, right?
Yeah.
So you're not trying to create a documentation for the function.
Yeah, no, it's just the texture of the exercise. Okay,
so then when you do that, you want to make it as a comment. So you can select everything, control slash, right, to create everything as a comment. So this is, or the question mark in my keyboard. Maybe it's control question mark. I don't remember the Portuguese keyboard anymore.
I don't know how to say that. Ponto e vírgula.
Oh, semicolon. This is a semicolon. It's on the keyboard, I guess. So this helps you transform things very quickly into comments. So that's what you normally want to do in this case. Otherwise, great code. Thanks. Let's go to the next code. that you showed us. Exercise number 2. And let me send the tweet while you explain this one.
All right. In that one, let me open here too. I make the function, and in the X, I receive what's the symbol that I want to print, and in the lines, how much line I want to make this pyramid. So I receive the symbol, getting the X. If I send like a number, I can send an integer. Uh, I don't try it with a double, but I think it will work well. I transform the X into a string to not make some math. Because if I send a number 1 when I put symbol more symbol, it will become a 2, and I don't want that. Okay, and I have take the number of spaces to make the like the example above with the O. I need to make a space when I become the top of the pyramid. So I have take the number of lines and print the first one. You get the number of space in the argjust and the length, getting the number of the space number. Okay, and I put the space number less 1, and I think I can make this the same way of the exercise 1, minus equal 1, I guess. Okay, and I get in the 4, and I get the range, and the rest basically the same of the exercise 1. Print, get the number of spaces, last 1, print again to the end of the line.
Okay. Let's copy this and let's go into the details that are important here. So just one thing, I'm gonna save, and my linter / formatter is gonna change this code. So pay attention on the changes. Okay. You always want to make sure that you're using a linter / formatter because it's good practice, even though some people don't like it. One thing is in particular is the spacing of things changes a little bit. So I'm gonna run this code, and it will run. This is just me running the current code. It's only running for 3 lines because of this change right here, which is what we just discussed in the previous exercise.
In this one, I forget to change this.
So there are a few things here that are a bit strange, I guess, or new, maybe. So the first thing is, what is this here?
Well, when I was making adjusting to put default just for
No, I'm just wondering about the column int. This column int here.
I think just custom. How did I say that? I forgot. Custom.
This is the syntax from what? Flutter? You write this?
Yeah.
Okay. So this
I use just to make an int because there we need to make that.
You have to describe. Yeah. So in Python, there is a separate thing now that this is now allowed to happen. You can write this. If this was Python 8, 3.8, I don't remember which one, this will not work without a package. This is the typing in Python. It's pretty much useless for many things. And unless you really, really, really want to do those things, I would just avoid it. So that's why I was wondering where that came from. Yeah, let's not think about the typing right now because it complicates things a little bit. And also is not so useful at this point. Okay, then you create the symbol, and then you say this add thing, which is symbol plus symbol. Okay, so you can use it down here later.
Yeah.
So the main idea here is that you just have one character, and these add are the two characters together, and then you're gonna create the symbol plus two characters. It's always two characters, right?
Yeah.
It's always symbol plus symbol. So in this case, I will not create add here, although you have to create the add, so you can leave it. Okay. So in this case, I would name it differently. So I would maybe say, so two chars, something like that. So it's a bit more clear what they want to do. Symbol is fine. Space number, you want to say the number of spaces, right?
Yeah.
It's fine, but we don't really need to do this because of math. But we can go back to this later. And then the really, really new thing here is this rjust. So what is rjust? So let's first take this. So what is this here? So len symbol plus space number. Space number is a number, and len symbol is the length of a symbol. So we're taking a number. In the first iteration outside here, you have 5, and then you have space number equals 5, and the length of the symbol is 1. So this is at first 6. So what is rjust doing here? Symbol.rjust 6.
I don't really know exactly why. I was searching for how to put some spaces in the front, and I find this way, and I use that.
Okay.
I don't saw another way. I don't search very much because I was making this on my lunchtime at the work.
Okay, so what you need to do is always check. You can always search for things. That's the way to do it. That's how we all do it. But you have to always check what you're doing here, especially in the more complicated examples, because you have to know how this is going to affect the rest of the code. So rjust is just write justify. So the simple way to verify what's happening here is to replicate. So this is what's happening in that case. This is what's become o.rjust6. And this is what is returned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements. The rightmost one is the string. So rjust is just defined. So if the help is, if I leave the help on screen, return a right justified string, which is justifying the code, making sure that it's in a norm, in an order. What's it called? I don't know. Make sure that it has a right amount of characters, and you give the number of characters that you need to do. So this is saying, hey, I want this to be a 6 characters long string, and the rightmost one, or whatever is inside here, is going to be on the right. So if I say abel.rjust6, this is going to add 2 spaces, so it becomes 6 characters long. And that works, that's fine. You could instead just print a few spaces like this, but we're going to go back to this soon. But yeah, this is a way to do it, and that's fine. And then you're saying one less space because now you have next. So before we go there, because you're doing a few things together. Mateus Silva is following us. Hi, Mateus. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for watching. So the first thing here that you're doing is your symbol is initially just O, and then at this point it becomes 3 characters O. And then because of that, I think what you're doing here is a kind of trickery math, because the number of elements increases by 2, but the number of spaces decreases by 1, but you essentially have to write all of the things, 4 plus 3, to become 7. So you have to do this kind of math so things work out. That's a bit too complicated for this thing. There are a few ways to solve this. Kinda. One of them is you could, not ideally, but what you could do here is say a total number of spaces, and the total number of spaces at the very end is going to be, there's one extra space here, but at the very end is going to be 7 in the case of 4, but you can do the math to figure out that is going to be the number of lines times 2 minus 1. Yeah. So this is essentially, if you have one line is 1, the next line is 2 times 2 minus 1, which is 3. Next line, you have, for each additional line, you are multiplying by 2, essentially. That's what I'm trying to say. So the total number of spaces is this thing here. So you could just say, instead of this whole thing, total number of spaces. This is not ideal, but this kind of tricks the algorithm. Well, actually I have too many spaces now. Yeah, so the problem now is that I have too many spaces because I'm trying to do that thing. But then you have the C justified. Yeah. The center is center, which justifies in the center, which will be the trick for this. So justify at the center. This is not ideal for one reason. The one reason that this is not ideal is that you have a lot of spaces in the end. So what you can also do is, after you have run the center function, you can also run the strip function to strip all the spaces. And of course it strips all the spaces, so you have to strip just the right-sided spaces. So now if you select things, it kind of works. Okay, it shows one extra character here, but this is just the end of the line. Okay. Okay. So first thing, it's a bit too complicated to use this center in this R strip, so you could do this in another way. And by the way, if we do this change, you don't need the space number anymore. You can just have this. But we can also do this another way. And the other way to do this is just to always also print the number of spaces. And now is where I want to introduce another trick when you have string concatenation. So what you did before was O plus O. So it becomes OO. So this is a plus. So what happens if you multiply? It becomes the number that you want. And that's the trickery that you can do. So this is a bit easier to do. That's not very... So what you did here is a bit more lower level, because you're used to the lower level. And that's usually the experience. People coming from C or Fortran, nobody comes from Fortran anymore, Java and whatever. Lower level languages, they have to be more explicit, like saying this is an integer. Here you can be a bit more aggressive, let's say, and you can do things like that. So here, instead of printing this like this, I can just print the number of spaces that I want. And it's going to be something here plus the number of symbols that I want. In this case, it's going to be just 1. So the question is, how many spaces do I have? And then it becomes another math problem. You have 1 spaces, 2 spaces, 3 spaces. So it's always the number of lines minus 1. And this is another way that you can do the thing, and you don't need anything anymore. And now this is another part. You want to write down how many lines. For each line you have 2, except that it starts with 1 less than the total. So again, well, this is n, so it's not lines anymore. What you can do, so you don't want to use lines, so you could do this. No, I'm actually gonna do it this way. So you do n for range 1 in lines. You actually want to step it from the top to the bottom, and to do that, you can say range, and we're going to say the help range start stop step. So 10 0 minus 1. And how do we collect things again? I'm not gonna tell you what this is right now. So just to show that it works. So you could do this instead. You start at lines and end at 1 and decrease 1 by 1. And then you don't even need this line anymore. So instead of lines, this should be n. And when you reach the end, the last line is 1. This should be 0. The last line is 1, so we have to go to 0. And this should work, but it doesn't. Oh, it doesn't because I started counting from the bottom up. So this is actually not necessary because I did the math wrong. Okay, so almost works, except that the number of spaces is completely fucked up, because it starts with lines minus 1, and then for each line it decreases 1. So I have to do this instead. Almost good, except that now it's only doing 3 lines because the last one is not being done. So this is actually plus 1, and now it works. Okay, so this involves more math. So this is more the mathematician way of doing the thing, which is just do a bunch of math. And when you show the more low-level way of doing the thing, which is good, which is also works, so it's also fine. But just to show that you can do this, the most important thing here for you is you can do this times a thing for a string, and then you have multiple versions of that string. Okay?
Okay.
So thanks for this code. Let's go for the next code, which is the Bhaskara. So the Bhaskara should also be easy. The Bhaskara doesn't have a lot going on here. So I'm just gonna copy it and show a few cases, because Bhaskara is Bhaskara, so
yeah.
Run things 164, it works. You're using mathpol, which is correct. Delta negative raise exception is fine. Using the square root. So this is completely not relevant here, but in the future you want to do 2 things here. First one, you want to say square root of delta. This operation is not really expensive here, but since it's the most expensive operation in this case, you want to do this. Also here for mathpol, it could be just, you could just write b squared, so b asterisk 2, because the power function is a bit more generic, so it will eventually check that that's an integer number. Or in this case, just b times b, and it also works. But that's Python being Python. And so in this function, the most expensive operation is the square root. So because of that, it's useful that you decrease the number of times that you compute the square root. And the other thing that I want you to do is when you have this kind of operation here, divided by 2 times A is at the bottom, right? So when you
Yeah.
say divided by 2 times A, is this times
Wow.
multiplying the whole thing or just the bottom? Right?
Yeah. I
So
forget
this,
to surround this by parentheses.
exactly. So it appears to be, well, A is not doing it. So 156, if I multiply this whole equation by 2, it's going to be 2 times 2, 10, 12. And you can see that the solution changed because A is actually wrong here. So you want to do this instead. And now it's working. If I call Bhaskara 2, 10, 12, it's the same as Bhaskara 1, 6, 156. Okay? So
Okay.
that's the thing. Always make sure that you, I mean, unless it's really obvious, always make sure that you do this.
Yeah. Well, this was just a forgot.
No problem. There is also something that we're going to learn in the future, how to test this, because these exercises, they ideally need some testing, but we're going to learn how to test this in the future as it's more complicated. So thanks. The code, the rest of the code looks nice, so there's not a lot to discuss here. Now for the hard one. Whew, this is a hard one. So for this one, we're gonna need the folder logs. Well, there's only 3 files here.
Yeah.
So let me copy the. I actually want the. Yeah, I'm not gonna try to do. Can I download the whole folder? Is that a thing to do
Yeah.
in? I normally clone things or use wget, but you know, I'm on Windows, so. Oh, yeah, it's correct. So I'm just gonna clone these things manually. So copy, create a logs one. Actually, one of the logs I already have. So let's check the other gist file 1.txt. Is this the same kind? Yes, it's the same kind. So this is a new file, Zorg log 2. And now we're gonna have a third file, Zorg log 3. Save. Bunch of nouveau here. Okay, now we are doing something fun. So explain it.
All right.
By the way, this is
First.
in English, is archive.
Oh, nice.
Okay, go on.
Okay. First, I open an archive of text named W, and I call it X. This is to write the the separated lines of the file, and I get the 4 of logs, and I call the the files inside the folder. When I get the folder, and the name of the folder is logs. Okay. Then I get the archive path, where is wrong the name archive too, obviously.
Sure, don't worry about that.
So then I get the path of each file inside the folder, and then I make the validations. I get the file, I open this file, and I start to reading it. I get the 4, and therefore I get the line, and I see if the line starts with the, how is the name of that?
Square brackets.
Square brackets. Okay, I see if that starts with this square brackets, and if it's not, I go to the next line until I saw if there is a EE of error. So if it's not, go to the next line. And then I start to separate the line, and I get the timestamp where I or
Separate.
where I separate the first position
Mhm.
of where is the timestamp to the final of that timestamp, and I get the time. And then I get the error message when it starts at the, how is the name? Oh, the third block. I don't know if it's right to say that.
Could
And
be.
then to the end of the file is that 3 and 2 dots. How is it? 2 dots?
Column.
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 Column. Okay.
COLON. Column.
Okay. Column.
And the other one is semicolon.
Nice.
Okay. What else?
And then I write the file in the archive, where is the x.writes and the full message.
Okay. Okay, so when you want to explain things, so the first thing to explaining this is you don't have to explain every line what everything does. You want to make sure that the concept is right. So what you want to say here is, so I am looping or iterating through all the files in the folder. So that's it. So this line is I'm for each file in the folder. You don't have to explain this because it's the archive path. The name is clear. I only do this for the files.
One moment. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So you only do this for the files, and then you are parsing the files and doing the thing. This last part is the explanation of what we did last week, so I'm essentially skipping this. But there are other things here that we have to do it right. So the first thing is you haven't finished the exercise actually. The hard part of the exercise was I want you to write down it ordered by timestamp. So we're just writing them down here. So let's run this. Let's check the output. So you're saying at time something. So this example, line 6, time 24.733. This is not in order. This should be first.
Oh.
Okay? And at the end, you also have some other things.
Yeah, I forget the order by.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. You forgot about that, so you have to go back and do this again. The second thing is this exercise shows one very common error, and you should work on this, which is to improve the readability. And one really easy way to make it really hard to read is when you have a bunch of indentation. It goes to 6 levels of indentation, 7 even in this case. So it's really hard to read everything that's going on here. You're saying read the things for each loop if it's a path, and then I open the reading part. For each line, I do this. So it's like if you were trying to say a really long phrase, right? You're saying, well, considering that you have this and 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 this, I decided to stay. So the conclusion takes a long time to get there. So there are two things that you need to do to make this better. The first one, and this is a bit related to something called clean code, which we're not going to go into details at all. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to create functions for these things. So all of these I'm going to actually call a function. So I'm going to say parse logs, and this is the function that this is implementing. And the parse log functions depends on the folder, which is what you did here, but you wrote the folders here, and you want to write the folders here, and then you do the parse logs of the folder. So this is the correct way to do things. You have this scope now, so this is inside a scope, and now you're calling a function. Always try to separate the, what's the good name for this? So the things that happen independent of actual necessary user data, and the things that are specific for this. So this is completely generic. I could send this to another person and use it, right? If I send this code to another person, I want to say, hey, I sent you a function called parse logs. And I close it here so we can see it's only one name, parse logs. This part here depends on my folder called logs. So this part here, I don't want to send to anyone, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Second thing, when it becomes complicated and you have to explain what's going on, you might want to document, but this is just an addendum to the first thing. This parses a folder or an input folder full of logs, and then you can essentially write the exercise text. Right, so now if I run this and I say help parse logs, it tells you what's doing, right? So the help is useful. So even if somebody only has this part, he can mouse over here and the help is there. This part is an input folder full of logs. Of course, the help is not good in this case, but when it's good, it's helpful. So this is the first thing. Notice that it became more complicated because now I have one more thing, one more layer. So the first thing that the first thing that you want to do is create functions. This whole part is what we discussed in the past. This is parsing the logs, right? So instead of doing it here, you could do it some other place. However, this part is the part that is currently not working because this is instead of writing it down, you want to first order them and then return. So instead of doing this, we're going to have to do something else. But let's worry about that later. So def, I'm going to call this maybe parse logs of a folder. And this is parse a log file. And now this becomes a bit better. File path. And now I can do this. And I can say parse log file archive path. By the way, archive path is not a good name for the thing. Log file or file path could be better because archive implies something else. So I'm just going to change these names to file path or log file path. Okay, so it's really, really verbose. So far, so good?
Okay.
So this is a single file parsing the file path. You could explain now what it does because it needs explaining. We open the file. For each line in the file, we do the checks, and then we do something. And the do something part is that what needs to change. And now I'm just going to create the messages, empty array, and I'm going to append. So you remember I talked about append?
Yep.
That you are going to need to use this. So I'm appending, and at the end, I return the messages. Okay? So if I run this and I parse log file of logs xorg log, I just get the messages in a file. Okay? Whether this is a good idea or not will depend on how you implement the rest. But this is what you wanted to do. This part here could be inside this file, could be in another file. Before, what you were doing was not so good. Now it's fine. But normally what you want to do is if not a file, continue, and then do the thing. So I also talked about this. You want to first check that you're doing everything right, or like you want to do the exit early checks. So exit early, and then you do the things that you have to do. So exit early, right? So always check if there is something can go wrong. Check that something and exit. Something is separating the cases. Check the smaller case or the easiest case, and then exit, and the other case is just here. Okay? Make sense?
Yes.
So those are the two main things. The name of this file was not good. X. So two things. First, X is not a good name for a file. Never. The second thing is you want to make sure that you write a bit more longer names when you're actually writing code. So here you could say output IO for in out, or output file, something like that. We are not using it because we are not doing anything with these messages. So these are the messages we are reading. We are doing anything with the output or the messages, which is your exercise still. Otherwise, I think this is it. So you open the output file, you log. What you could do here instead is you could do, you could do it like this. First, you read all logs, and then you write the output. And here in the middle, sort, right? Which is actually how I told you to do exercise 4. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Read all, sort those things, write the output. And then here you of course have to do something. This is not working yet. If I run this, it runs the code, but it's gonna pass. So the exercise 4 is empty.
Yeah.
Cool?
Okay. Cool.
So you have to do this first. And I can send you this code if you want. I'm gonna upload it to my Gist. Which is exercise 4 discussion. .py. And the link is in the chat. I'm gonna paste it into the Restream chat, Twitch chat. I pasted in some chat, but I'm gonna send on our WhatsApp. Great. So good changes. You're gonna have more work. So this first part of learning Python is essentially doing a lot of work.
Yep.
Because you have to get used to the whole Python notation and the way of thinking about Python. So that's unavoidable. Okay. Okay, great use of, you found what you needed, the OS list years, the join, the is file, these are all correct. So you found all of those things you had to find. So that's very good. The sort part is not going to be hard, depending on what you try to do. And there's also something to do here in the read logs. But yeah.
The sort part, I totally forgot about it.
That's because you're old.
Yeah.
So the messages here, if you just try to sort the messages, it doesn't work, okay? If you try to sort them directly. Because the messages, they are strings, right? So they will look like 10.1 and 100.1. And you say sorted. This one worked, of course. So maybe if I say, that's a quick example that shows it doesn't work. Maybe if I do this, it doesn't work. Well, it's hard to find an example. Maybe it works because dot has actually less priority than everything else. So I will need to find something that doesn't have the priority. Yeah, this should not work. Yeah. So the 5 is compared to the 1, so it doesn't work. Okay? So you have to do some transformations. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Nice.
All right.
Let's do the fun things now. Round 2 of Python, we're going to learn a bunch of classes. So do you have classes in the other languages that you know about? Have you learned about classes?
Yeah.
Okay, so you already know a bunch about classes. It's going to be super easy.
Oh, yeah.
Or not. So date should by. So classes in Python, if you know classes, I don't have to explain everything. I don't work with classes a lot because Julia doesn't have classes. So it's even better that I don't have to explain. Well, let's start with some basic stuff. So let's say that you have a class for a point. So that's how you write a class for a point. Say this is a point, and it has a function called init. And the function init has 2 values. And you say self.x equals x, self.y equals y. And you have to always write the self function. And this is a class. Okay, so let's do this. I don't remember how I run these things, but anyway, if I do this, point 23 is a point. That's it. So you can say p equals 0.23, p.x, p.y. Okay?
Okay.
Super easy, right? There is not a lot to do in this case. That's the basic idea. You just create a class. A class could be just a data source. You could, a data class when you just have datas. We're not gonna do the add data class for those listening in and already knowing Python. Let's do something more interesting, maybe a rectangle class. So a rectangle, you say it has a width and a height. So you could say the width is width and the height is height. So this is a rectangle. And you could ask for the, why is my Python not using 4 spaces? Because I forgot to set this up here. Indent using spaces for. And you could set, so as for those that don't know about classes, classes are like these objects that have data in them, but they also have functions that perform actions on these datas. These things are called methods. So you could create a method by just writing another function inside the rectangle class. For instance, area, and you have to say self, and then the self things are available to the rectangle class. So the rectangle, the area of a rectangle is the width times the height, and that's essentially what you have to do. So you could just say R is a rectangle, size is 3, 4, and you can say print r.area, and it works. The area of R is 12, 3 times 4. Okay? That's the pretty basics of the class. You can just create things here. You can create some methods that don't depend on that. So def whatever, and whatever returns 1. If you do that, you can call point.whatever. Not point, because it's not point, it's rectangle. Rectangle.whatever, and it works. This is called a static method. I don't know if you have static methods in your thing, but the static methods means that it doesn't depend on the instance of a class. So an instance of a class is when you create an object. This is an instance, right? So a specific element of the class, and oh, my heart. And the static method doesn't depend on a specific instance. It just happens for all objects. So if you say r whatever, it should also not work. Why doesn't it work? Maybe it doesn't work. I have to say, yeah, it doesn't work. That's true. So this doesn't work because the whatever, so when you call r.whatever, it's actually calling whatever self. So it doesn't work because there is no whatever self, there is only whatever. So the way to have static methods, so they are always only available to the whole class, is by not giving the self argument. Okay?
Okay.
So far so good?
Yep.
So we could have another class called circle. It has a radius. The radius is the radius, and the area of a circle is the radius. So it's pi r squared, which is the radius square, times pi, math.pi. Math, I don't have math here apparently. Import math. Math.pi. And then you have c equals circle of radius 5, and you print c dot area. Right, and the area is 78 by 5398 something, which is exactly what we imagine it would be. Okay, so far so good.
Yep, so far so good.
And so the thing is, these two classes, they are both shapes, so you could create an abstract class. And to be honest, I don't remember how to create abstract classes, so we might need to do some trickery here. So the way to create abstract classes in Python is by first searching Python abstract class, because I never remember. This is the official documentation. So the official documentation of Python is pretty good. So you have the abstract basic classes, and so you can say abc.abc, which is a great name for a class. From ABC import ABC, and then you say this. But I don't remember why you do this. You can do, and you can do those things those interesting extra things that you normally have to do it by hand, you can do with the at variable. So let's do that here. So now we are essentially learning together. From ABC, import ABC. So the class shape, so these parentheses here saying ABC, they are saying the class shape inherits from ABC. Okay, so that much I remember, which is not a lot, I guess. Okay, cool. So now, even when you have an abstract class, you still have to define a few things. So this is an iterable class, apparently. I don't see this foo anywhere. My iterable register foo? What? I love this stuff because it's not complicated at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing with Python. It's some things are newer, some things are classic. I know a lot of the classic stuff, and I know pretty much nothing of the new stuff. So here he's saying import ABC and abstract methods. Polygon, which is exactly what I wanted to create, so it's good. The polygon ABC is a you have abstract methods. That's it. You don't have to give anything else. The example here was just complicating things. So you have a shape, or I guess, yeah, a shape. You have the abstract. I again don't remember the difference between abstract method and abstract class method. So the abstract method, you're saying this is a method that should be implemented by the other methods, which is the area, and you just pass. So pass in Python is just do nothing, but you have to say it because of the indentation. So this is essentially saying everything else is gonna need a shape. So this runs but doesn't do anything. And then you actually sorry about that. And then you actually say the rectangle is a shape here. And when you run this, it should continue doing exactly the same thing as it did before. Right? Because nothing changed, essentially. So now I'm gonna say a bit more, some other cool stuff, or maybe def is polygon self, and the default is to return false. So let's say I have an abstract method, is polygon, false is with a capital F. So now I'm gonna do the same thing that I had before. Abstract method is polygon. So apparently you have to implement this polygon, but I want to leave it as default. So now if I say r.isPolygon, do I have to say abstract class method? So maybe, so what's the, let's mouse over and see. Indicating requires that the meta class is ABC or derived from it, a class that has, unless all of the abstract methods are overridden. Maybe use. Okay, what about the abstract class method? Because I want to have a default. Abstract class method. Now it's imported. Indicate class method. Okay. So what about class method?
Abel,
Yeah.
I think you just forgot to run again the shape class. To select it and shift enter.
When it
I,
was what?
and we was nothing.
Like this.
Yeah,
So
I
let's
try
run
here
again.
and
So r dot is polygon. Yeah, classic Abel.
yeah.
So actually, let me remove these things. So I always run everything. Okay, I can control enter now. Okay, now thanks for finding that out. That's good.
Nice.
Good integration, nice. So let's do this. Let's do the following. I actually want to now implement another class, which is the polygon. And the polygon is a shape. And
Sorry.
no problem. And the polygon is. Wow. Did you see that autocomplete? Did you see that? Let me show you again.
No, I was writing here.
Look, def is polygon, and then it autocompletes. So this actually shows something which I'm not gonna use. So there is something called a super class, which is the class above, right? The shape. So if you say super, the super function is gonna call the isPolygon method from the shape class, which we don't have to worry because that's not what we want. All polygons are polygons, so we can just return true. So now the rectangle is a polygon. So I can control enter, and I can come here and say r dot is polygon, and it's true. Okay. Of course, its polygon is a terrible name because I can just be a member of the polygon value, but since Python doesn't really deal with types very well, might as well have that. What a break. Okay, so far so good?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a pretty basic example, also because I don't have any cool examples to show, but that's the basic of it. Maybe we can try to implement something cool, maybe like a logger. We could do that. Or just say,
Okay.
yeah, that's your favorite. Yes.
Let's just try it.
Let's just try. So the logger. So this is the thing that I want to do. I have a code here. So this is like two parts of the code. So the first part of the code is my actually the second part of the code is my code. I just want to use the logger. So I want to do something like this. I want to say, hey, I have a function which is a bisection method of a function fab. Again, I have to change the spaces and then using 4 spaces. So the bisection did not work. Now it works. So the bisection method is the following. You just have f of a, f of b, and this finds a root for my function. This is f of x, while close to 0 is a conditional, which is math dot fabs of fx. Yeah, I was expecting an auto import of math. So all my examples are kind of mathematical because I don't know anything in life. So close to 0 are small interval, This is just b minus a. So what I'm looking for is time to stop is if it's close to 0 or small interval. So what I'm looking for when I say bisection is I'm looking for a function, a point inside the interval a, b, where function f is close to 0. So like, for instance, I can say def example function of x, and the function can be the exponential of minus x minus x. So the example function, when I call example function at the point 0, this is 1. When I call it at 1, this is minus 0.63. So the function starts at 1 and then it decreases up all the way to minus 0.63. So at some point in that interval, it goes to 0. And I know, because I did this in the past, that this function is close to 0, this value is close to 0.567, right? So when this is just 3 decimal points, but it's easier to show that it goes to 0 around this point. So what I want to do is I'm gonna look at this interval and I'm gonna check if one of the values is positive and the other one is negative. If they are, there is a root in there, and I can split the interval in two, and then one of the sides of the interval will also satisfy that one of the points is positive and one of the other is negative. So these FA and FB. So I can say while not time to stop, there is no end. I'm gonna copy all of these essentially here. And here is where I do the checks. So if FA times FX is negative, then it means that the new interval that I want to check is the interval A with the new x, and FB is equal to FX. Otherwise, A is A, A is oh my god, A is X and FA is FX. I started to think of something else and then I broke. Actually, don't need to compute this FA unless I do this check. If FA times FB is greater or equal than to 0, I can raise an exception. Interval needs to have F changing sign. So either FA is negative and FB is positive, or FA is negative and did I just say the same thing? So one of these two has to be negative and the other one has to be positive. That's it, right? So that's why I'm doing these checks here, which is exactly what I am doing up there. So that's it. Just repeat, repeat, repeat. Eventually, I'm gonna leave the for so I can return X, which is the closest that I've been to the solution. Running this, I'm at a different terminal now. And I can say bisection of my example function in the interval 0, 1. And it's 0.5, which is completely wrong. So I did something wrong there. What did I do? Is my X not updating? Oh, here, I did not do the comparison. Close to 0. This f of x has to be smaller than a small value, like 10 to the minus 6. And b minus a has to be smaller than 10 to the minus 6. So while it's not time to stop, so either because it's close to 0 or a small interval, I do this math. And now we do the math. Okay, so that's the value 0.561434. Okay. Okay. Now is the time for you to ask questions about this code, because this code is completely not important for the future, but you don't understand the basics of it. It might be harder to understand the rest later. So
That's just I write all of that in test if it's working well. Zero done. Okay, it's working.
okay, but do you understand the logic?
Yeah, I think I understand the logic. It's a lot of math. Lots of math.
Yeah. Normal amount of math, not a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Next time, it might be better for you to follow what I'm saying instead of trying to copy everything, because it's harder for me to. Yeah, it's harder to understand and copy, and I can send all the code in the end.
Okay. No, but I understand what you want to write down.
Okay, so that's the basic thing. The only thing here that I want to do now is the following. I want to log what I'm doing. So imagine that instead of doing this, I am doing some data engineering task. So for instance, I'm cleaning data and I'm logging what I'm doing. Or I have a server and I'm essentially getting a bunch of users and I'm informing what's going on. So user X wants information A, user Y wants information B, and I'm just writing a single line on my log to know what's going on. Or that this is a system in my computer that manages the whole graphical interface, and I'm informing everything that I'm loading on my Linux kernel. A log, which is exactly what this is. Right, so this is a log. Okay, so you can see here the log, it prints the thing in a nice way, formatting the thing with some time information in this case, but some kind of information, it's necessary. And the main idea is that I want to prepare the log. This is a function. I want to prepare the log some other place, and I say I'm gonna log everything to a file in a specific way, or I'm just gonna log things to my screen in whatever way, and that logger is going to be passed to my bisection method. Okay. So what I could think here, if it will be something like this: if logger is file, then you open file and write, right? So that's what we did. Else if logger is print, you just print, right? Instead of all of this, I want to write just one single thing, which is logger something. Okay? And the logger is going to be an argument here. Probably an optional argument like default logger that we're going to create, but yeah, we don't know exactly what yet. Right? What is this? This is what we're going to work today. This is what we're going to create, a default logger, and we're going to use the logger inside this function in a few places. Okay, so let's get to work. So the first thing is we're gonna have different kinds of loggers. So I'm gonna create a class for logger, which is going to be abstract. So from ABC, I'm gonna import ABC. Okay, so it's an abstract class. I don't know what's going to be inside this class yet. Here I say logger this way, so maybe instead of logger.log, instead, because I don't want to worry about that. So this is a class, an instance of a class to be exact. So for that, I am going to create an abstract method Come on, autocomplete. Abstract method. Thank you. So I don't have to write down. And this abstract method is going to be a log. It has a self, and it's going to have a message. Okay? And let's create a very simple logger, which is the print logger. And the print logger is just print the message. Okay? So that's what we want to do. Here I said logger is default logger, but we don't have a default logger yet. So I'm just going to do this. And now we're going to check. Why is this? Oh yeah, because this is complaining because it's not at the top of the file, but this is a notebook. It's fine. Did you just cough and the whole thing turns black? Okay, so print logger, right, is a thing. And when I call bisection and I say print logger, it's printing a bunch of dots, which is what I told it to print, so it's fine. Okay? So now let's actually send something to the logger. X equals to X, f of X equals to f of X. So this is what I want to log. Run again. Okay. First logger, just the print logger, which is a very basic logger. It doesn't do anything impressive, just logs things on screen. Cool?
Cool.
Now we're going to do a bit more complicated logger. Let's do a formatted logger. Or formatted print logger. And def log self message. So what we want to do is format this logger a bit better. So let's do something like, so we just learned something today, which is the rjust, right? So we can use something like that, for instance, to say rjust a time stamp. Oh, somebody followed or something. I forgot to enable the Twitch chats, so they just appeared on my ear. And where is that information? So I can properly thank people. No, I don't want to listen to another Twitch. I want to see my Twitch stream manager. Here, HFS Kilmster. Thanks for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Let me know if I'm seeing a bunch of things on my screen. Sorry. Let me know if you need more context or anything like that. So let's just do a simple thing right now. Let's just adjust somebody naked behind you, Igor. Have a naked friends. That's illegal. Hello, HFS. So we're just gonna adjust our message with 30 characters, for instance. A very bad kind of logging. And it's message.adjust, I guess. Okay. So this print here is saying, okay, start with a vertical line, print the message, ends with a vertical line, save, run. Don't have to run that again. Here I just changed the print logger to be something else, like the one that we just created, the formatted logger. Which doesn't work because I forgot to run this, I imagine. But I'm copy formatted print logger. Yeah. Okay, so it works. Nicely formatted, not really, but almost nicely formatted. This is a very basic kind of logging, so it's not doing anything really. But it's a very basic idea of what we could do with this. Of course, the 30 is not a good value. So we could do something like this, and it's better formatted. So this is where it actually gets interesting. So here I said formatted print logger, and it doesn't do anything at all, but I could actually create a constructor to the logger, which is the column length. Let's start with 50. And you say self.column length is the column length. And instead of hard coding this 100 here, you say self.column length. So this is actually now useful as a class. Otherwise, it would just be a function, right? So now I have inside the formatted print logger the length, and I can just call log. So this runs, and then I can say logger equals formatted print logger, and I can say 45, and I can call the bisection with a logger. Okay, cool. Terrible formatting, but it works. Is what we are looking for. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now let's do things a little bit better. Instead of doing this terrible formatting that we are doing right now, we could try to do something a bit more complex. So what do we want from the logger is the question. Here I'm just logging functions. I'm just logging strings. So it's like just the values of x and f of x. So we could do something a bit more interesting. Instead of logging a message directly, we could just make a logger for this specific case and make it a bit more better formatted, right? So for instance, instead of logging this, I could log the name of the thing and the value, and I could do this for a bunch of them, right? I could do this instead. So now I can properly format these things, but also it's not a message anymore. It's a number of variable arguments. So it has to be something like args. And I forgot how you do that. I think like this, right? So this, let's just show this one, and then we go do the other one. Oh. So this is a different function now. So let's create a print logger. Print logger doesn't do anything except log these asterisk args. And when you say asterisk args, if I'm not mistaken, you can just say x equals 1, y equals 2, and it does something like this, right? So we could do that, or we could do the other one, which I said, which would be x and the value of x, like this. Except that this one doesn't have names, so it's not asterisk args. Is one asterisk args, not two asterisk args. Asterisks. Well, maybe not that. Print logger takes one position, 3 we're giving. Maybe I'm not thinking of Python. Maybe I'm thinking of other language. Do I need something else for this to work? Yeah, no, because it's a positional argument. So I think I need something else. Well, I actually like the other one better, so it's even good. It's even more interesting that I don't do the other one. I do this one because it gives me a dictionary instead. So I can just say args and print the args like this, like we just had. Not this one, this one. And then since I have the names of everything, I can just loop through them. And I imagine they are in order, otherwise it will not make sense. I don't remember. But you could say something like def self dot args, and then you go through each one of them for kv in args, and you print one part of the column. So let's print a whole column. Yeah, let's do that. Out is going to be parentheses, space, and the out is going to be a f string for the key. Let's do the rjust thing. The key is always a string. So I am just gonna do the value. I'm gonna do a header as well. I'm trying to think of the things as well as implement them. So let's just look at the requirements first. So instead of logging it like this, I'm gonna log it like this. I'm gonna create a header, and it's going to be yeah, it's going to be this. So x equals x, fx equals this, okay? So the important thing here is that I use the same name as x and fx as I'm gonna use when I actually log the values. So I say x equals x, fx equals fx. This name in the left doesn't have any relation to the name in the right. And when I do this, the header, I want to print something like this. And when I call just the function value, I want to print something like this. So just the log. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what I want to do here. So I'm going to create the header. And it also needs to be implemented. And it possibly I can implement the header for all of them because it's going to be the same thing. And the idea of the header is that I'm going to iterate through all of them, self dot log arguments is going to be the arguments. Do I need to be more specific than that? I don't think so. And then I'm just gonna do a for, printing all of those things. Well, actually, I don't want to do a for here. I'm just creating the arguments. So then it depends on the specific function. Oh, self-log arguments are just the args. And then here for the logger, the print logger, I'm going to call the super function self.super.header for these arguments, and I'm going to print them using my own logger self-log self-args because it's just printing a bunch of stuff. And now I can print them in the order that they appear. They should be in order here. Let's just print and see what happens first. So alt plus, so the argument is the only thing that matters. So I'm just looking for the v in this. I'm gonna say v.rjust 6 and add the closing part. And at the end of all of these, I'm gonna add the close. No, I don't need to add anything. I already have everything that I need, and I can just print out. Okay. Run everything. Create the logger. The logger should be empty. That's fine. Then I say logger.header. I say x equals 1, x equals x, fx equals fx. And now it made a mistake. Print logger object has no attribute super. How do I call the super again? I just call super, I don't have to say anything, which is an interesting choice. I think I have to run again and then create the object again, because it's not in memory. Okay, so logger header takes one positional argument, but two are given. So here, instead of passing args, I want to pass asterisks args. So I send all of the arguments. And now I have to recreate the logger and rerun the print logger. Still the same mistake. What happened? Oh, you don't have to say self here. Otherwise, you're passing self twice. And now I think I did a mistake for real. Super.header. Oh, header args as well. I was doing some other mistake some other place. Okay, now that's good. Not enough values to unpack. Expected 2 got 1 in args. Can you iterate over arrays? So this is how I debug these kinds of examples. I just create a function here. So let's print args. So full of x equals 1, y equals 2. It returns me a dictionary. So if I say for x, y in this dictionary, x1, y2, and print x, it doesn't work. So I have to say dot items, I think. Yeah, so I have to say dot items here. So to iterate on the dictionary, you have to use the dot keys or dot values or dot arguments or dot items, I mean. So here I actually don't need the key here for now, but I'm gonna use it eventually, I hope. So I can just say this, logger equals print logger, and then I can go back to my logger.header, and now it works. Cool.
All right.
And now this should also work if I call bisection. Bisection of my example function 0, 1, and this logger. Float object has no attribute are just. Yeah, because it's not. The v is the string of v. And I have to recreate the logger. Done. Right?
Nice.
So that's the idea. That's the basic idea of the logger. And when you have these, you can do other kinds of loggers. So for instance, let's say that I never want to print anything. So you can create something called a null logger. So a null logger is a logger. And what's the idea of the header? Doesn't matter. What's the idea of the log function that you have to implement? Nothing. So by default, you can say the logger is a null logger. So now, well, I have to run this as well. So now when I call the bisection function, if I don't give anything, it doesn't print anything. Right? So that's one use for it. Or I can just use the print logger here. Or I can do something like file logger. So a file logger, when you create the file logger, you're gonna have to say which file you're going to write it to. So self.file path. Right? So let's say you have the self file path, and when you log the header, the idea of the header is the same as the print logger. You first call the original header, you log, self-log all the things, and the log that we are using is, we want to use this same logging here, except that now I want to open a file, and I want to say open self.filepath append mode sf. So we've open, and you say f.write out f.write /n. Is there a way to automatically append a /n? I don't know. So so I'm, instead of writing it down, printing it out, I'm writing it to a file. So now run this. I can say a logger is going to be the file logger, not this, the file logger. And since I have this init, I have the file path. File path is equal to file path. Run that. And then I can say, and then I can say I want to use mylog.txt, and when I call the bisection with the logger, it will create mylog.txt. It has all we want. Cool. This is a simple example, and this leads us to our exercise. So essentially, just all the things I want to do is give you exercises.
Yeah.
All of these things, these formatted loggers, the print logger and the file logger, are doing the same kind of thing, right? They are doing this out. So what I want you to create is create abstract class logger that creates formatted loggers. Print, or I essentially use print logger instead of formatted print logger. There is no formatted anymore. Everything is print logger. Print logger should inherit. Print logger and file logger should inherit from this class. So what I'm saying is the file logger and the print logger both do the same header and log, except for this line, this last line here, and these 3 lines, right? So I want you to refactor this. So refactor, do you know this name?
Yep.
So I want you to refactor this code so these 2 classes are together. Can I select like this? No. So these 2 classes are a single class. So we have class formatter logger, that is a logger, and you're going to do whatever. And then the print logger is going to be a formatter logger, and you're going to do something here, And the file logger is also a formatter logger. And you're going to do something here. What exactly? I don't know. Probably this still makes sense. But the header and the log, they will need to be a little bit different because I don't want to repeat this code, right? And I don't want to repeat all of this code. So put them together in a formatter logger class.
Okay.
So far, so good?
Yes.
The second thing is that formatter logger class, so this is part one, essentially. Part two is the formatter logger class should have a header method that let me think if it needs to be a header method. So what I want to do is select the number of columns per element. But it's not easy to do that. I actually think I need a... No, let's just leave it like this. This is a interesting enough example using classes. I don't want to complicate the example by doing that. So far, so good?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, this is the basics of classes. This is essentially all I have to say for now. I'm gonna copy this and add to a gist. Logger.py. Create secret gist. And I'm gonna send in our chat and in the Twitch chat, which also goes. Well, it doesn't actually go to the YouTube chat. Let me use the Restream chat. Yeah, Restream chat goes to both of them. Nice. Okay, so you have now two exercises that I want to give you, and that's, I think, enough for now. Okay? So, questions about anything at all so far?
Yeah, I think the questions will appear when I try to solve the exercise.
Okay, good. So the next step is, so this was essentially, so in 5 hours, we covered a lot of things. We covered everything of the basics, but like really, really, really shallow. So now you have to either read about a lot of those things in more details or do a lot more complex things and go back as they appear. There are two ways of learning. So I like to think there are two ways of learning when you learn things. So let me create an empty file here. I actually want to use something cool that I saw online. Whiteboard. What's it called? There is a whiteboard that you just write whiteboard online. It has a cool name. It was not whiteboard. But this works. So there are two kinds of ways of learning, I like to think. So this is what you know right now. This is 0, right? People, for any new thing, you learn 0. And there are two ways of learning. The first one is you learn a bit about the basics, then you learn a bit more about the basics, a bit more about the basics, then you can learn more complex stuff, right? Then you'll learn more about the basics, more about the basics, and the more complex stuff, you see the more complex stuff is harder. Eventually you get to learn a more complex stuff, and now it starts to get even harder to pile things because each step is larger, so you need to learn more of the basics. Eventually you do some cheating like this, and you learn a bit more like this. So it's a bit unstable, but you can learn, right? So eventually, if you have time, you can complement your learning and extend that, etc. And eventually you learn more Depending on your field, you actually have things that are like pyramids, and then you have to stack this learning on top of each other until you get to a point where you learn what you want to know, which is this random stuff up here, right? So this is learning number one. You start learning from the bottom. If you go to a university, that's how you learn. You learn this. Then you have on your second year, you learn a bunch of these. Then depending on your field, you learn a few of these. And sometimes you learn around here sometimes here, depending on your field. A PhD is here, or nothing, just the very basic. Erase everything. How do I erase everything? There should be a button to erase everything, but I don't see. I'm just gonna scroll down, which is even better. So there is another way of learning, which is you know where you want to get here. So to get there, what you try to do is you try to figure out, like, let's say you want to learn about creating a website using Python. And then you learn online and you see there's something called Django. And you say, okay, I'm going to do a tutorial on Django. So you open a tutorial on Django here. And the tutorial on Django says, okay, we're going to create a simple project. And okay, I don't know how to create a simple project. So you have to go back a little bit. So instead of learning this tutorial, because you could not learn, you go back a bit more, and then you kind of try to learn about something else, right? And then you do a bit of this. Eventually, you kind of learn a little bit of this stuff, get to another roadblock, have to go back more, and then you do a bit more basic stuff maybe. This is a bit easier to learn, so you can learn a bit more. In the process of learning all of those things, you learn a bit more about this. Maybe you learn a bit about this, right? You have a lot of missing gaps, but you eventually manage to learn just enough for you to do the basics like this. A lot of missing parts. But if you continue learning like this, eventually you can get to this point here where you have the basic learning of Django in this example. You're missing a lot of knowledge, you're missing a lot of basic knowledge, but you can do this much quicker, right? So this is the normal bootcamp experience. So when people say, I'm going to do a data science bootcamp, they want to do something called data science here. Data science involves mathematics, involves statistics, involves programming, involves some business knowledge. So all of those things are very complicated. So what people teach you in boot camps are, hey, this is the basic of Python. And then they say, okay, so you're learning a bit of classification, and classification uses the logarithm of this function. And you're like, what is logarithm? And then you learn a bit about what is logarithm here. Right? And this little part is the logarithm part. And some say, and because of that is a logistic function. And you say, okay, a bit of that. And then you go back to this example and you understand the very basic idea. But if someone gives you exactly the input that you need, you can generate exactly the output that they want. So it becomes really focused on, I want to do one thing, and I want to do it quickly. So how do I get there in the shortest amount of time? The idea of the bootcamp is to kind of make this progress a bit smoother. So the bootcamp person knows that you want to get to the X, and what they do is, there are no other colors? No. And what they do is they kind of draw you a path that helps you get to X. Okay?
Yeah.
So these are the two ways of learning. The first one, you learn more because you learn the basics and you learn it in a way that will sustain you for a longer time, but it takes longer for you to learn. And the second way of learning is you learn very quickly because you have an objective and you start to focus on the objective and you learn backwards. But then you're missing a lot of parts. You have a lot of gaps in your knowledge. So these are the two ways of learning. So the basic thing that we did right now is I am trying to boot camp you. I'm just giving you this part, and a bunch of these. Right? I'm not looking at this because we don't have a goal set up. But I'm doing this for you. But you need more of the basics. Right? So I recommend two things. One, investigating what is this, so we can plan these extra steps better. And the second one is improving at least the basics. And the basics are hard. I'm not going to say that they are easy, they are hard. And there are many things that you have to do to get to the basics. But there are a few things that we can do there. So I have a few suggestions. Okay? Do you know what I mean? So for this one, we have to discuss it. It can be online or offline. What kind of jobs you will be applying to when you start looking for jobs outside of what you do right now. And this one is wait, what time is it? It's 3. We started at 1?
Yeah.
Did my stream fall?
Yeah, we started at 1. It was 9 here.
Yeah, I'm thinking that my stream must have. Now, rest stream is saying that something happened, but it's correct here. Okay, never mind. So we have to check what kind of jobs you want. Like if you want to work with web, because you already do some app stuff. Okay, so maybe we should look into Django, or we should learn about API development or things like that. Because I also don't have a lot of knowledge about a lot of the specific things. Or data science stuff is a lot of other kind of knowledge. All of that is Python. We're going to just keep using Python for as long as we have to, unless we touch on things that are Python dependent. The problem right now is the next parts here that we can do and that are very complicated are projects. Look at that writing. Perfect. So projects. Projects is not a good name for this. Packages. Packages is a good name. Packages. I could write down, but it's cool too.
Nice, beautiful.
Beautiful. This is so packages. So not using packages, creating packages. So like creating packages involves learning about pip, learning about environments, learning about tests, and I mean there are a bunch of other more basic stuff like modules that we haven't touched yet, although we have been using them. Importing things we have been doing. Import / export. So these kinds of things. All of these basic things to actually create a package in Python are complicated. More complicated, I mean, than what we have done. Because so far it's just programming language, and you know programming language, so just a different syntax. Classes, you know classes, just in a different syntax. So it's all things that you already know. But these parts are the parts that are really harder because they depend on Python. And Python is also making life a bit harder because of choices that have been made. So it's more complicated. So we have to discuss where do we go from here, if we go in depth or not, because I don't think it's going to be useful. So these are the upwards. Even more up is the specific packages that you might need. Specific. Nice. specific packages. For instance, if you're going to learn about Django, you have to learn Django. If you're going to do API, you got to learn Fast API, or the other one that I forgot the name, or Flask, or Flask can be used for both, for creating a website. Or if you want to do data science, you're going to learn about the matplotlib to plot stuff, or NumPy to do more math, or scikit-learn. So you kind of have to help me help you. This is the part that is going to be easy. So down here, there are two kinds of knowledge that you need. One of them is general for any kind of language, and the other one are more Python specific. So the basic ones for Python specific, you get by training. And I'm going to use an exclamation mark here. Nice. Exclamation mark to emphasize. You have to train those things. So right now, so you did 3 codes. That's good. You have to do more codes and have to check other people's codes. First, I want to recommend you use either Code Wars. I think Code Wars is probably the one that I recommend the most. There is Code Kata as well. No, Code Wars is, I think, became Code Kata, or Code Kata is just a concept. Let's focus on Code Wars, which is a single thing. Code Wars, let's log in. I think I have a login. Yeah. Apparently not. So GitHub it is. Lot of information. So Code Wars gives you a list of exercises for you to practice. I already have something here, so it's not ideal. And they are listed through this numbering system from Go the game. And this numbering system is the larger, the easier it is. So 4Q is a good number. 6Q is easier than 4Q, right? So they go up to 1Q, and then it has 1 done, but I don't know if they have done here. Apparently not. So here it goes from 8Q to 1Q. Easiest is 1Q. So you can select one here, for instance. Let's take one. Is it a number? And let's select only Python. I pressed the button and nothing happened. Python. Let's sort by popularity, I guess. The most popular first, because we want things that are really, really, really tested. Some of these examples can be bad, so we want these more liked ones. And here, even or odd. So you can open this. Details. Create a function that takes an integer as an argument and returns even for even number, or odd for odd numbers. And you don't check the solutions yet. You go, where do you go? My zone is too large, maybe? Oh, down here. Oh, up here. I'm on front of it. So let me move my big head out of the way. And your big head. So up here you can see train. And you click on training. And you implement the function. So far, all we did was to get to this point. So you can actually train all of the basic stuff. So a number is going to be in, and you have to check if it's even or odd, and return. And down here, you have a lot of tests. See? So if a number is... so how does the test work? These at tests are those magic functions that we saw, like abstract method. So when you have an at, they do some crazy stuff. So you don't have to worry so much about what is going on here, but it's describing these as example tests. Test it So test it. Maybe you saw this in your packages as well. Testing that it is even or odd. It tests that even or odd should return odd. Okay, not great English, but it's clear from the message. Even or odd of 2 should return even. Even or odd of -1 should return odd, right? So you can write your code like this. If number equals 1, is 1, return odd. And otherwise you return even. So a bad implementation that will pass something. So you can say test. Say test. And save. So you can save. Never mind what I said. So when you save, it shows the thing. So here on the left, the test results. Even or odd of 1 should return odd. And it's green, so it passed. Even or odd of 2 should return even. It's passed. And all of the even ones are passing because I'm returning even for almost everything except for number 1. Right? So that's it. That's the basic one. So that's what you want to do. You want to come here in this Python, implement all of these things, and when it's done, you can click on attempt. So I'm going to give you the solution for this thing. Do you know the solution for this? Well, how would you do this in your language?
To see if a number is even or odd,
Yeah, do you have
basically, I would divide by 2 and see if it's 0 or is not 0. If it's 0, is yeah. If it's 0 is even. If it's not 0, is odd.
That's almost good, but there is something that is better. That's something that's already implemented on most or all languages. That is the reminder of the division, because you have the integer division, and you have the reminder of that division. So the reminder is the percent sign 2.
Yeah.
So the reminder of the division by 2. Is that what you were trying to use?
Yeah.
Good. So you know what it is. So if the reminder is 1, it's odd. So if you save, Control S, passing on everything, so you have a chance to make it work, so you can attempt. By the way, if you attempt and it fails, you can modify here, and you can add more tests. So here I could say even add of 11 should return odd, and I can test custom. I can actually remove this because I think maybe I need this information, and I can just write my custom tests, and even odd of 11 should be odd. Save. My custom tests are here, right? So you can add more tests. When that's done, you can attempt. How do I attempt these things? I don't know. Control Enter. So for some reason I can't click on the button. I don't know what's going on. So I'm using Control Enter to do that. Maybe it's because my zone is too big. Hi, X-Techna. Good morning. Thanks a lot. Thanks on my studies. My brother studies mainly as well. This is my brother.
Hello.
Can see the resemblance. Really?
I don't.
You don't see the resemblance
either.
I think people actually think that we look alike.
Yeah, they need some glasses.
Yeah. He said, "Nice to meet you, Abel's brother." I don't have your name anywhere, probably. This is Igor. Igor, like, what did you use to say, Igor? Is Igor like the
movie Dracula?
Like the movie Dracula, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering, because I said that. Igor. And I think there are 2 Abels on the screen, yeah. Remind me to create a user interface, Igor. So at least I can add your name on the screen. Okay, but anyway, so what?
Am I to create the user interface?
No. Remind me to add Igor on your on screen.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I will forget.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's it. So that's the basic idea. Created, I can train again our next kata. But if the example is not trivial, or even if it is trivial, it's useful to check down here new things, because the solutions down here, they have a lot of insight in good practices or smart stuff that you can do. And those smart stuff are the second thing that I was mentioning here. So the first thing, you just have to train a lot to get Python in your system. So the second thing is the smart stuff. So the smart stuff, which is not a great naming for this, smart stuff, I'm thinking of two things. The first thing is the best practices, right? So the best practices are like when we discussed earlier today, you use if n equals 0, right? So that test was not necessary because it's going to happen only once in the beginning, so you can move it out of the for. That's a best practice or a good practice. Not exactly a best, but a good practice. So those are making your code look nicer. So the person that's going to look at your code is going to be happy, or he's not going to be angry with your code. That's usually what happens. People just get angry. They don't get happy.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And the second thing, which is the harder thing to get, is the algorithm part. So the algorithms, there are classes about algorithms. So there is a book. How is it called? Yeah, Introduction to Algorithm in Portuguese. Shall be Introdução aos Algoritmos. And this book, for some reason I have the whole book here, has 500 pages or something like that. I don't have the number here, but it's a huge book. The Corman book, I think half of the book is studied in a discipline that a lot of students find it very, really hard. And by the way, X Technica is talking to you. He said, Igor, do you have experience with programming, or Python is your first experience? I'll let you answer that.
No, I have experience in Delphi, and I have experience with Flutter too.
Flutter. Nobody knows.
That is Dart and a Flutter Dart for mobile.
Yeah, he said also, by the way, I think maybe in the future we can try. I like using OBS, but we can try next time using restring so you can read the message as well. I don't know how to share the messages. Oh, I probably can share on screen, but or you can check on Twitch as well.
Twitch, let me open my Twitch here.
Yeah, he said also it will be easier to understand Python, which I agree 100%. 100%. And yeah, he was saying that wants to read this book so badly. And yeah, that's true. I read a part of it a long time ago, but I really don't remember most of it. I mean, you remember the code, right? The code of the algorithms, bunch of them, but you don't really remember them. So depending on which area you want to invest, this has a lot of useful stuff. A lot of useful stuff. So we have 35 different kinds of algorithms, I guess, in 7 topics. Some of them, like the data structures, involve a bit more advanced structures already, like red-black trees, which unless you're working on a specific thing, you might not use at all. But some stuff are more like basic that everybody should know once, or should have implemented once in their life, so it's useful to follow. But since actually giving you the book, I mean the PDF is online, and I think it might even be public access at this point. I don't know, but you could read the book, but it's a huge book. But you could just look at some of these implementations and it will be better. So, like I said, two main things: to just train a bunch of stuff and then to learn the smart stuff. So learning the smart stuff like algorithms and the best practices will happen if you try to implement and then you see the results and you see a better way to do it. Like I did a if, else, and this is a simpler way of doing it. Right? So do you know this structure?
Yeah.
Do you have ternary operators in Flutter?
Yeah.
So like the same idea, it could be used here. So it's one line. It's sorted by best practices. I don't know if I would call this a best practice necessarily, but it is a very common practice because it's super short and in this case super obvious what's going on. Here is our solution pretty much, except we did not write the else. This one is just a bit fun. Right, so you have the list of all options and the number %2 returns 0 or 1, so it's 0 or 1. So it's like an array access. Do you understand this one?
Yes.
Good.
Very nice.
Very nice. This is exactly the same one as before, but with comments, which also best practice. But yeah, we don't write comments, with more verbosity. A lot of small examples. This one is maybe just making complicated on purpose, right? So this could be something that is complicated on purpose. So you could look at this and say, what's going on here? And then you look for an explanation. And nobody's saying anything. But you can hear that bit operations is a keyword, so then you can search for that. So bit operations. So what's going on here? Why does this work? Search for bit operations, and then you look at this and say, okay, so this is what's happening, okay? Get the idea?
Yeah.
So I don't want to explain this one. It's really basic, and apparently it's faster. But usually if you're doing things in Python, pure Python, you're not worried about speed. So don't worry too much about this. But it's a cool subject to learn about. Bit operations is very cool. And you might learn about some really obscure algorithms, learning a bit more about that. This one has apparently even checks. So this might be useful, like, how do I check if a number is integer? So now you have a way to check that. See? Because like Python doesn't care that this is an integer or not. So now you have to check it. Okay, and apparently check even or odd is not the name of the function, so maybe it's not even being used at all. So, okay, never mind then.
That's very cool.
This one is great. This one has how many? He really did implement everything. A lot of free time.
Effort.
Yeah. So this is a cool example of how would you implement this. So implement a code that implements this code, right? So this will be fine.
Yes, GPT.
So now you really get into the really like what? Lambda. We haven't talked about Lambda, so actually this is a good thing to remember. Talk about Lambda. But this one really surpassed everything. So EOVD-EDN. So if you take only the odd or the even positions, so position 0 is E, V is position 2, position 4, position 6 have even. Position 1 3, and 5 odd. Right? This is obnoxiously complicated, but it's super cool. Right? So that's the idea. You see things that are like, what's going on here? And then you're like, ah, nice. It's really, really creative. Yeah, indeed. But anyway, this is like, I don't even remember what this is doing. This is skipping 2 by 2. Oh yeah, so like this one is, we'll talk about lambda soon, so don't worry about this. So this is a string, but a string is also an array, like we talked about. n%2 will be 0 or 1. And this here is saying, look through all the things up to the end, skipping 2 by 2. So this is like the range that we talked about. It has a skip. This is a skipping 2 by 2. So this is either 0, skipping 2 by 2, so 0, 2, 4, 6, or 1, skipping 2 by 2, 1, 3, 5. Okay. And I think that's enough. I think we saw all of the ones that we had to see. This is using dictionary, but it's fine.
The same.
And eventually you're going to get to the point where you say, okay, I'm happy now. Next. And then you move to the next kata. And I don't remember if it automatically suggests something. Okay, suggested something for me, I guess. But I don't remember if it automatically suggests something at a level 7 when you're good enough on level 8. But eventually you're going to have to move to level 7 and 6 and 5 and 3, etc. So this is the first thing that I want to suggest to you. And the second thing is the advent of code. And the advent of code has some quite complicated problems, but the first few days at least are easier. So let's take last year, 2022. And you can take day 1. I'm logged out, so it doesn't show anything. But the idea is that it's gonna say, it's gonna give you some kind of Christmas-based story with Santa usually, and then a lot of things are going on, and you're helping Santa to get stars, right?
Yeah.
So after reading a lot of information, you have to click on a button to show you your input, which you download, and then you give a solution, which is just a number. So you don't have any interaction with this code. You don't implement anything on this website. You just download the information, write a code in your computer, get the solution, and put the solution here in the website. Okay? So it's really, really cool. It's like a lot of thematic puzzles, not just implement this and that's it. It's like, this is what I want you to do. So the first examples, they are pretty like simple to do something. Some can be done in a few lines. Some will require more, but they are simple to understand and simple to solve. The more complicated ones, they involve a lot of algorithms. And I think I never finished all of them. So like last year I did almost none of them because life had other plans. I might eventually go back and do them. But like the best that I got, so eventually, I think apparently I finished once. So this is the only year that I finished all of them. 25 days, 2 stars each day. And then you can, you get some nice stuff. So, which is very cool. Yeah. Xtechnic says he's never finished all of them either. Much because I've got bored. Yeah. I'm not gonna say I got bored, but I usually got some other stuff in my life. Because this is super fun. Yeah, I actually think I finished 2 years. I think these 2 years were the easiest years on my life. Yeah, because I was a professor, I decided to take the days off as actual days off. And yeah, normally they only open 1 per day, so you can only do 1 per day. But if you do finish them No, what do I want to say? I forgot completely what I wanted to say. But what I was gonna say, what I can say is you can get 2 stars per day, and there is a leaderboard that you can get to be like the number one user that got the stars first. But getting the star first is super hard, especially because the hour that this will open, I think, is midnight on UTC -4, -5. So for you, it's going to be 2 a.m., 2 in the morning. For me, it's going to be 6 in the morning, so I will not be getting up that early either. So what I suggest for you is try to do these puzzles all in Python. Try to do them all. Try at least. If you have the time to do it every day, do it every day. And yeah, it should be midnight UTC. It should be fairer globally. Yeah, indeed, it will be fairer. I mean, it would be even cooler if they had different, like, how do you say? If you could somehow, I mean, it depends a lot of how people choose to do these things, but if you had some either different problems, a little bit different for people in different time zones or different leaderboards, but yeah. But anyway, so what I want to recommend is that you do all of them, or try to do all of them. Yeah. X Technica said this is very much US centric, based on the US and United States. But here we are, 3 Brazilians talking amongst themselves in English. So that's that. It is true, yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Very nice.
We are already planning on the people that will be watching this being Americans. But yeah, Americans don't get a lot of views either way, so. But yeah, anyway, Advent of Code, I recommend, Igor, if you can do these things streaming, then it will be even better. And then I will also try to do them streaming, but I will do them in Rust. I will try to learn Rust this year. Try to be in the keyword. So,
all right.
We can try to find a time, like depending on what time is easier for you to stream this, if you do have some time for it, and then I can stream right after you, right before you, so then we can conjugate this streaming with others, so it also gets more views, and it will be cool.
All right.
Okay, so let's discuss that a bit later, but the main things are create a Code Wars account. So let me actually post the Code Wars. Is that a... Let me see if there is a... Been a while since I did anything. What I wanted to do is to see if there is a button that I can share. So if people sign up with my Code Wars, they get I get something, but there isn't. X Technica is asking for your channel, Igor. Do you have a channel, Twitch channel?
Or I have a Twitch. I don't use it very much, but I have.
So let's create one. Decide if you want to use Restream or Twitch or YouTube or all of them, and let's create. And then I'll post here in the chat. Well, we're gonna have another meeting like this before. I'm definitely gonna post online. So if you, I mean, what is it? Can you post already? Let's find it. Twitch.tv/Igor Siqueira.
Well, I have to create another one.
Okay.
Or change the name.
Find one.
I will see. We see later that.
See a good name. Yeah, let's do that later then. Okay, so create a code wars, do a few of those exercises as well as the one we mentioned, and let's discuss about these as well, the
Yeah.
objective in the future. Because when we start to go into the details, it might be, it will be harder for me to actually know what to talk about. So I have to I have to plan for these meetings as well. Cool.
Cool. All right.
Okay, I think I'm gonna end the stream here, and we can discuss
Yeah.
some specifics. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody watching. Thanks X Technica for interacting with us. It's always nice to have people talk to us in the chat. I hope to
Yeah.
see you
Thank
around
you.
more times. Thanks. You can also have a nice rest. Have a nice rest of weekend as well. And I will see you next time. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Say bye, Igor.
Thank you. See you guys. Have a nice day too. Get rest too. Drink water.
Drink
Here in
water.
Brazil, it's very hot.
Brazil is hot.
Let's go.
Go. Go. Bye bye.